Tonight on CTV News, it's now signed off. What are the Aussies sharing with us? Up and away with the old regulations, new rules planned for operating drones with cameras, and concerns around silica dust causes a cloud of potential health problems for rebuild workers.
Broadcasting across Canterbury, from the CTV studio, this is First at 5.
Kia ora, good evening, welcome to CTV News, now streaming live every night at ctv.co.nz. Well, New Zealanders who have got criminal records overseas will now be tracked by the justice system when they come back. New Zealand and Australia will now share this information for the first time, and some say it's an oversight which is finally being resolved.
Information on offenders deported back to New Zealand will now be known by Justice, Corrections and Police departments. The move has been signed off by New Zealand and Australian authorities, tying up a loophole which has previously allowed ex-offenders to come back to the country without their criminal histories being known. The agreement has been welcomed by Christchurch mother Tina Bayliss, whose teenage daughter Jade was murdered by her then partner Jeremy McLaughlin in 2011. Neither Bayliss nor the police were aware that McLaughlin had served time in prison in Australia for killing another teenager before being deported in 2001. Bayliss launched a petition calling for closer monitoring of violent criminals deported to New Zealand and says the agreement is a step forward. Up to 100 New Zealanders who commit crimes in other countries are deported back each year, most from Australia. The new agreement identifies deportees who have been convicted of crimes, are serving prison sentences or have had their visa cancelled on character grounds.
They're growing in popularity, reaching record heights in sales, and now drone restrictions are needed to keep everyone safe, whether it's for privacy issues or airspace control. But what do they really mean, and what does a local supplier think? They can take some amazing footage from above, the landscapes of Canterbury or even the inner city and the rebuild. But these drones will soon be seeing some new operating rules. There's been a large number of these aircraft sold throughout New Zealand and in the region as well. Ian Goodwin is one of the biggest suppliers of the flying devices and says he's flat out with sales.
The increase has been pretty phenomenal, that we're outgrowing this building and staff and things. So they're still increasing month by month, so about a 10 or 15% increase every month in sales.
But starting next month, things will be a little different in the airspace world, with new regulations being introduced around their use, something Goodwin welcomes.
Well, it's really good that these new regulations are coming in because it will actually give a more comprehensive rule base around the drones. At the moment, there's just a basic pamphlet from CAA, which is what every drone that we sell, but they are quite limited drones, quite old rules based from model aircraft quite a few years ago.
Late last year, the Civil Aviation Authority was working on new regulations for drone users, asking people to have their say on the new rules. The current regulations under unmanned aircraft operations don't quite cover the latest craze of technology that can fly even faster than model planes from 10 years ago.
At the moment, if you just fly in your backyard, you could be breaching the current rules. But in the new rules, they're going to have, if you are not above any shielded buildings, so you can be shielded by the buildings. So as long as you don't go within 100 above the buildings that are in the vicinity or trees, then that's legal now, which is an obvious thing to do. So a lot of it's just common sense rules, and it's just making it so they can clamp down on any rogue flyers out there.
But another issue was around privacy. The locals concerned about the drones flying above and seeing into their private properties. However, Goodwin says the new regulations will outline what can be done and shouldn't be a concern to the public.
That's good that it's going to be defined exactly what you're allowed to do and how you won't do it, and maybe alleviate some people's fear and paranoia about the drones, because they are very wide angle cameras on them. Normally they don't have any, or they have no zoom feature whatsoever, so it's very wide angle, you can't really see anything anyhow.
He says the AirShare website helps keen drone users to know their boundaries around flying their model craft.
It's really good for New Zealand, where it defines exactly where you can fly out of controlled airspace. You just put your address in, and even if you are in controlled airspace, you can easily get permission, and it's all automated on the website. And New Zealand's great, yeah, and they've got regulations and they're monitoring it, so everyone's going to be able to do what they can do in a controlled manner, and so they control it for the rogues out there. You always get some rogues in any industry who will see how high can I go or something crazy like that. So you want to eliminate the people who just do crazy stuff.
The new regulations will be enforced around the country on the 1st of August. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. Friday night drinks at your local bar, or maybe even a couple when a major sporting event is on. It's all great, but what if the bar didn't even sell alcohol? Well, a non-alcoholic bar has been opened in Auckland for nearly a month, and health advocates and bar owners here like the idea. But would a concept like this really work in Christchurch? A night out on the town. It can be a social place, but one major problem health advocates have is the country's binge drinking culture. But a new venue in Auckland has some locals talking. It's a bar stripped bare of alcohol. It's nearly a month since the tap bar opened in the city of Sales, and the director of National Addiction Centre here in Christchurch welcomes the idea.
Well, I think it's an interesting experiment, and it is based on something that's been tried and is working overseas. So I think where there's a precedent, it has more chance of being successful.
And he says it's timely too for anyone wanting to start up a similar venture right here in Christchurch, with the council working on tightening alcohol rules, looking at where and when alcohol can be sold. The draft local policy would see restrictions for off-licence bars, cutting closing times back to 9 p.m, and would see most bars shut up shop by 1 a.m, excluding those in a defined area of the central city, allowing them to stay open beyond that. And although Salmon welcomes the idea of a dry bar, he says it could be difficult to mould into the country's nightlife.
In New Zealand, very much got the idea that going out, having fun, requires drugs in order to have fun. There's a mantra in New Zealand: life can't be enjoyed without alcohol. And so an alcohol-free bar goes against the grain, it goes against the social norm.
However, one Christchurch bar owner says she likes the idea.
They're sort of becoming quite fashionable, I think, and I quite like the idea of it. I think a bar's all about hanging out with people and having a bit of a laugh, so why not? You know, you get vegetarian restaurants.
She says it would come with its challenges though, especially in a city that's trying to rebuild itself.
One of the things that Christchurch struggles with is rebuilding a really vibrant nightlife in the central city. So I think that a non-alcoholic bar would actually struggle to find enough people. It's a bit of a niche target audience, people who are interested in that. And then, I think it would be a bit difficult, but help, who knows, I really respect anyone who gives it a go.
With the council's new draft policy, bars would have to change the way they operate throughout the city, but she says it could be a good thing to get people to have a good time in a different way.
I think that the message that comes out that you don't need to have alcohol to have a good time is awesome, and I totally get that and I agree with it.
But for now, she believes the concept wouldn't work too well, though time would tell.
Christchurch isn't the place to be really experimental at the moment. Maybe give it 5-10 years and we'll see.
And Salmon agrees.
I look forward to seeing how the experiment goes.
So it's the status quo for punters here for now. Jared McCulloch, CTV News. A man who led police on 2 car pursuits over the last month will spend the rest of winter behind bars.
A man who has pled guilty to 2 high-speed police chases will spend 2 months in prison until sentencing. 21-year-old Dane Carr pleaded guilty to dangerous driving and driving with a suspended licence today at the Christchurch District Court. He also admitted to drink driving when he was caught for his first chase last month in Deans Avenue and refusing to allow a blood sample. The court heard Carr was tracked by police dogs after a second pursuit ended in Buckley's Road in Linwood earlier this month. He has also admitted a charge of unlawfully getting into a car. Today, his pleas were taken via VidLink from Christchurch Men's Prison, where he has been in custody since his second chase. The judge ordered his suitability for home detention to be assessed, and Carr will remain in custody until his sentencing in early September.
Well, still to come here on CTV News, Silica Dust, how bad is it? Welcome back. Local author, feminist and activist Elsie Locke will also feature in the new Margaret Mayhew Family Playground. The Sierra project is expected to open for the Christmas holidays, providing a new playground for the CBD. Associate Earthquake Minister Nikki Wagner says it will now feature a 130-metre long wall featuring iconic stories from Mayhew, Locke and Ngāi Tahu. The site was previously on land named after Locke, and her family has successfully pushed to have her legacy remain. The playground design was won by a group of students from Selwyn House School. Well, first it was asbestos, and now there are growing concerns. Rebuild workers have been exposed to high amounts of silica dust. But just how bad can it be? Here's Chelsea Daniels.
New research now shows Christchurch construction workers are exposed to high levels of silica dust. Concerns have been raised during the post-earthquake rebuild of Christchurch. The dust, if inhaled, causes the lung disease silicosis, which inflames and scars the lungs. The study was commissioned by WorkSafe New Zealand and suggests that action is required to reduce silica exposure in New Zealand.
There's too much dust exposure to workers in construction when dealing with concrete drilling, cutting, grinding, that sort of thing. And that in that dust, there's too high a concentration of silica. That silica is not good for your health, it's not good for your lungs, and it's not good for other parts of the body.
He says that there is a huge lack of knowledge of the risks of silica dust, as opposed to the widely advertised effects of asbestos.
The similarity in outcomes is that they both damage the lungs, they can both cause lung cancer, and they can both cause lung disease, in one case what we call silicosis, in another case what we call asbestosis. They're slightly different, but they end up causing people to become short of breath.
The main sources of excessive exposure have been shown to occur when using concrete polishers and grinders. High exposure levels are associated with other tasks, including cutting concrete, drilling, crushing and cutting linear board. So, what can be done to prevent it?
Safer methods of work, particularly wet methods of work and local exhaust methods where appropriate, and using proper respiratory protection. If all of these things are put in place on a regular basis, then there should be no significant concern.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
It's been a cold winter so far, and just how hard have the harsher conditions been on our animal companions now halfway through the season? Chelsea Daniels reports.
As the winter months roll on, more and more animals are being left out in the cold. CEO of SPCA Christchurch, Barry Hellam, says that it's important not to forget about the comfort of man's best friend during those cold winter days and nights.
Obviously in Christchurch the weather is quite extreme, and we've had a number of minus something mornings, so we recommend that if possible all animals should be inside at night. For larger dogs that are in kennels, we recommend that owners make sure kennels are warm, dry, free of draft. Nice warm bedding in there to keep the dogs nice and warm, and especially if you're exercising a dog, make sure you do it at the warmest part of the day, particularly older dogs with arthritis, because in the cold of the mornings or at night it can be quite hard on them. For smaller animals like cats and rabbits, keep them inside if at all possible. You also need to be particularly careful about making sure animals are away from heaters or things that can be tipped over and be fire hazards, so there's something to be wary of as well.
The SPCA receive an influx of abandoned animals all year round, but especially in the colder months.
We've seen quite an increase in dogs being abandoned, so our inspectors are really busy now. We've had something like 55 animal welfare complaints this year so far with dogs and puppies. A lot of those are abandoned. Just last week we had 6 1-week-old puppies that were taken from their mum and left in a box in a park in Woolston. So if those puppies weren't found, they wouldn't have survived the night, because at 1 week of age they need to be with their mums and getting their mother's milk. So we've got staff now fostering those puppies. They're up every 4 hours feeding them, and hopefully once they gain weight and get to about 6 to 8 weeks, we'll be able to adopt them and find new homes for them.
So, what are some things to consider when adopting an abandoned animal?
When adopting an animal, I think it is a decision the whole family has to make, because we believe that animals get a forever home. So you adopt an animal, it's no different than having a child in the family. You commit to that animal for that animal's lifetime. So we want to make sure that there is the right fit and the right match for everyone's particular situation. So if you're going to take a dog, for example, we need to make sure that the property's well fenced, there's adequate shelter, the family has the financial means to care for the animal and pay vet fees. Also, that family has the time and the energy to put into training and giving the dog regular exercise.
Recently, a farmer in Atiamuri was fined more than $3,000 as a result of the ill treatment of cows, who were found to be malnourished and starved to death in his care. Ministry for Primary Industries District Compliance Manager Brendan Mickelson says this sort of offending is preventable. He says that MPI, animal welfare inspectors, will often work through issues with stock owners, but would not tolerate negligence or cruelty. And Barry says there's lots of ways to help those non-domesticated animals through these chilly months.
With the winter months, particularly in the South Island, we recommend that farmers have plenty of feed on hand and also an emergency plan, so that in the event of an emergency like a heavy snowstorm or flood, they have a plan B where they can get the animals relocated to somewhere that's warmer and drier.
Chelsea Daniels, CTV News.
And still to come here on CTV News, sport and your region's weather. Welcome back to CTV News, which now streams live online at ctv.co.nz/live-streaming. Thanks for that, Doug. Right now, here's Gordon Finlater with a review of the weekend sport.
It was a special weekend of sport in Christchurch, which was highlighted on Friday night with the City bidding farewell to its two favourite sons as the All Blacks dismantled Argentina 39 points to 18 at AMI Stadium. The All Blacks' first game in Christchurch in over 2 years couldn't have come at a better time, with Cantabs able to give Richie McCaw and Dan Carter a final farewell, with the long-time Crusaders not returning after this year's Rugby World Cup. Carter's performance was a positive one, with the first 5 solidifying his spot in the 10 jersey with a 14-point game. While the finalists for this year's Metro Rugby competition have been found, with 2 tight-fought semi-finals on Saturday, seeing Christchurch and Lincoln University prevail. Saturday's wet and windy conditions kept the scorelines close in both semi-finals, with Hawkins Cup winners Lincoln University defeating New Brighton 17 points to 14. New Brighton looked likely of pulling off an upset, leading 14 points to 7 early in the second half. However, Lincoln showed fight late in the game, grabbing the match-winning try with less than 15 minutes to play. Their grand final opposition Christchurch had a tight battle of their own, defeating Marist Albion 24 points to 22. Leading by 9 points, Christchurch gave Marist a sniff when they got within 2 after a try in the dying stages, but it was too little too late as Christchurch hung on to book their place in this season's pinnacle event. Well, still with rugby, and there was drama aplenty in CTV's featured UC Championship match on Saturday when St Andrews pulled off a remarkable win over defending champions Christchurch Boys High. The game had it all with a constantly changing scoreline, while St Andrews experienced weather conditions similar to another St Andrews. The arrival of the southerly at half-time worked in the home side's advantage as they came back to eventually hold on to the narrowest of leads, winning 24 points to 25 and ending a 2-year Boys High unbeaten run in the process. If you missed the match, a full replay will be screening right here on CTV at 7:30 tomorrow evening. And finally tonight, it was heartbreak for the New Zealand Davis Cup side in Christchurch over the weekend, with India winning Sunday's 2 reverse single matches to take the tie 3 games to 2. New Zealand found themselves in a strong position heading into Sunday, with Friday's opening singles game seeing Michael Venus take the match in the most dramatic of circumstances, coming back from 2 sets down to win in the 5th, with a rowdy Christchurch crowd cheering him on at Wilding Park. India then took the second rubber before New Zealand comfortably took the doubles on Saturday, with the New Zealand pairing of Artem Sitak and Marcus Daniel showing the form that has seen them both win on the ATP Tour this year. After narrowly missing out on their first World Group playoff match since 1999, the Kiwis will now have to wait until next year as they look to work their way through the Asia-Oceania group once again. You're up to date with the latest in local sport. I'm Gordon Findlater for CTV Sport.
Thanks for that, Gordon. Well, Mercy's back and she's got your region's weather.
Kia ora, Canterbury. Well, it was a freezing cold weekend for most of Canterbury this weekend. However, we are seeing that wintry blast clearing up today. Let's take a look at today's highs. Timaru, 11 degrees for you today. Geraldine and Temuka, 9 for both of you. Looking to central Canterbury, a little bit of drizzle here and there today. A few sleety showers for some even. 10 degrees for Christchurch and Leaston there. 9 for Akaroa and Ashburton and Methven. Looking further north for today's weather. Kaikoura, 11 degrees for you. 10 degrees for Cheviot and Rangiora and 9 degrees for Amberley, Colvin and Oxford. Let's take a look at the Alpine region. 7 degrees for Lake Tekapo and Mount Cook today. Pretty chilly over there. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather. Timaru, 9 degrees for you tomorrow and sunny skies with light winds. We are expecting that -2 though tomorrow morning, so it could be quite icy. Looking to Ashburton, a very similar picture here. The sun should be out tomorrow, which is always good. 10 degrees for your high as well. Looking to Christchurch now, 10 degrees for you also with -2 again. Watch those roads, could be icy. And over to Kaikoura, clear skies and sunshine for you. Let's take a look at tomorrow's weather for the other centres now. Looking to Twizel first, we're seeing it's still a little bit chilly. How we are expecting sunshine, 7 degrees for you and 10 degrees for Temuka and Geraldine. Looking to central Canterbury, we're expecting that sunshine for you as well and those light winds pushing through. 10 degrees for Darfield and Leaston there, a little bit warm for Akaroa on 11 degrees and 9 for Methven. Looking further north, again, that sunshine is present. 9 degrees for Hanmer Springs there, a little bit warmer for Cheviot and Colvin, and 9 degrees for Oxford down there as well. Over to the Alpine region, 7 degrees for everyone here. Let's take a look at the upcoming days. We're expecting quite a good Wednesday. 14 degrees for Christchurch, that's the warmest place in the region. That's the place to be. 13 degrees for everyone else there and sunshine. Looking to Thursday, Kaikoura, you're taking out that 14 degrees, 13 for everyone else and quite mild temperatures for the mornings, which is always good to wake up to. Taking a look at other areas for the upcoming days, we're seeing that sunshine across the board there. A few cloudy patches here and there, but mostly clear skies and light winds pushing through. Flipping over to Thursday, again for most places, we're seeing it quite sunny, which is always good. And we are seeing over the next few days that that high pressure system will keep continuing to come through, hopefully lasting up until the weekend. For now though, that's your weather update for Monday.
That's not too bad at all. Thanks, Mercy. And that's CTV News for Monday. We leave you now with a flash mob of the Land Rover Club's 50th anniversary. But for now, thank you so much for watching us. I'm Jared McCulloch. Have a great evening.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.